Morning! I have decided to spend today doing a few videos on the Spectrum Noir Aqua pens. The other day I drew out this cow and had so much fun with it that I've drawn it out again. Ta-da! And I'm going to turn it into a tutorial if I can. First tutorial, not sure if it's going to work. Spent me 10 minutes trying to get my microphone to work, so we're off to a good start. So yeah, I have paintbrushes, I have an entire set of aqua markers. Oh, so pretty. Finally got the entire set so I can play. I have swatched them all, which was good fun. My little OCD heart was happy. I have found out which ones don't quite blend out properly, so I need to be wary of those when using them. I'm going to use the same colours and replicate this as a tutorial. The picture is from Pixabay, which I will try and link somewhere in the description so that you can go and download the picture and draw it yourself. Could do like a draw along thing if you had the Spectrum Noir Aqua Markers. Be good fun. So yes, on here I used, trying to remember, I'm pretty sure I used Prussian blue and black as a main. I limited myself to just a few colours. I actually did one colour to begin with and it looked amazing, and I was going to leave it at that, but then I thought I should really add a little bit more. And I think I also used Marigold for the nose, and I think that was pretty much it. So it's a real basic, simple tutorial, limited colours, nice and easy, I think. We'll see. So I have drawn out my outline, which you can't really see very well because my camera never quite focuses when there's no colour on the page. You just get rid of a little of this graphite because it's going to show through. Not that it really matters because it's quite a sketchy piece anyway. So this is my basic drawing. You can get this as on Pixabay. I traced this because it was nice and easy, and all I really needed was the outline. Don't need any details because we're not doing realism or anything. Prussian blue and black and Marigold. Let's pop him up here so I can see him. I think that was generally all the colours I used. I might have used a tiny bit of peat in his mouth. We'll see. See how it goes as we go along. So nice, simple, cheap, crappy paintbrushes, nothing fancy, all the kind of stuff that you can do from home without having to spend out on expensive things. One over there. So we have got black Prussian blue and Marigold. I started off, let me zoom you in so you can see what I'm doing. That's as far as it will go on this one. So I just outlined the eye. I do apologise if my head suddenly goes into the screen, but I am blind as a bat and I have to get really close to the paper to be able to see what I'm doing. Because stupidly, I never wear my glasses when I'm drawing, which is probably why I get so many migraines. So all I'm doing is outlining the eye in the thin tip of the aqua markers. On the other end, oh, nearly knocked my water over. We've got the brush pen, and you've got a nice thin nib for details too. So he has a lovely highlight in the top of his eye. All I'm doing is very, very squiggly popping in some colour on the very darkest section, so where all the highlights are, leaving blank, and then in here is where it's really dark and black. Again with the other eye, just literally going around the edges, keeping that highlight clear and popping the black in the very darkest sections. as we go through this tutorial, you will see that I am going for the darkest sections first, building it up from there, which is kind of the opposite to colour pencil work, where you do light and then dark. So I'm just popping in the creases of his eye in this very dark black. And this tip will still be activated with water. It's exactly the same as the brush pen. I don't want to activate it yet though, because I want to do just a tiny bit of the purple in this eye. So he's not all black. And then I'm going to smoosh it out just a little to activate that water. Activate the pen even, not the water. It's going to be a very, very loose piece. I'm trying to make myself go loose with watercolours. My main medium is coloured pencil, realism in colour pencil. So going very, very loose does not come naturally to me at all. So instead of filling in the whole lot, I'm just doing very squiggly lines, because they're all going to be blended out with water in a minute anyway. And this is the very darkest section of the cow's nostrils. So I've gone straight in with black. I will add a little bit of purple in a second to give it a little bit of colour, to make it join in with the rest. And I'm just going to blend it out with the water, just a tiny bit. So the darkest sections will be blended and staying dark, and then you pull that down into the slightly lighter section. So you can put your ink down and then pull it with the water to blend it out slightly. So let's get started on the main bulk of the animal. I'm going to go in, as you can see on this one, on all the very darkest sections. So where it's all shaded on your reference photo, I'm going to start putting the colour down first, which will give the base of the shape of the animal. Kind of intrigued to see how different this one comes out, since it's the second time I'm drawing it. So I'm not scrubbing the pen, I'm not putting lots and lots of the ink down, I'm just putting a tiny bit, almost not dotting it around, but kind of dotting it around, if that makes sense. Not at all really. And then I'm just going to blend it out with the water. You don't need to saturate your brush too much. Just on these very, very darkest sections. Probably done a little bit too much, to be honest. The longer these pens stay on the page dry, the more they soak in. They're dye-based pens, so they will soak in to the paper and not move around with water so much if you leave them for too long. So you need to get in there quite quick with the water if you want them to spread completely. If you leave the water on the ink, on the paper, it does help to disperse it. So he's got loads of flyaway hair up the top here. He's got a white patch around this section. So even though I haven't put any ink down on these sections, I can go in and drag this ink. See, this has already started to dry. I can go in and drag this ink just so that he's not completely white, but I don't want him to be as dark as these sections. So around his mouth under here is all going to be dark because that's the shadow of his mouth, obviously. And I'm going to pull this ink down to his chin because I don't want this chin to be dark or as dark as underneath his mouth. You need the shadow to make it look 3D. Going to go through his ears. This is the darkest section by the head, and then he has got lots of hair all around here, fluffy ears. Don't worry about being too precise because with watercolours you blend them out, you have splotches. Doesn't have to be exact. Just make sure you put your ink down on the sections that you want to be the darkest. Now he already looks like he has got a top layer of very fluffy ear here with the underneath. Do the same on the other ear. This is going to be a very quick tutorial because I know people don't like to sit watching for hours whilst you're doing it all pernickety. So this is literally just going to be something that you can fast forward or rewind and go back. Just keep practicing. I still really struggle with watercolours because, as I say, I am so used to doing realism work that being loose most definitely does not come naturally to me at all. The watercolours, I love that you can just have little bits that stick out. Like there's this little flyaway bits, and oh, it's amazing. I love watercolours. And these pens make it so much easier. So even though all we've done is use one pen, one Prussian blue pen, you can already see that he's got a 3D shape coming along. You can see which bits are the darkest sections. He would look amazing even if you just did one pen. So underneath here is his wobbly jowls. I do love my cows. I used to milk cows, fun fact, for a living. I can't believe it's taken me so long to actually draw a cow. So he's got loads of creases in here. So I'm just going to draw in the darkest sections, which will give the illusion of all the creases in his wobbly neck. Blend out those dark bits and then just pull the colour. It's watercolours. The whole page doesn't need to be filled. You can leave bits. You can leave white sections. That's what watercolours are for. Nice and loose. See, still trying to make myself go loose. Does not need to have ink all over the page. See, the quicker you use the water on top of the ink, the easier it is to spread out. If you leave it to dry, you're going to be fighting with it to try and get it to blend out a bit. See, I'm just going to chuck a little bit of water to soften it up a bit. I'm not sure if you can see here, it started to spread. If you blot water on top of this, then you're going to get sections that bleed out. Gives it a proper watercolour feel. So that's one colour, and you can already see the 3D shape of the cow, which I think looks amazing on its own. I don't think that it really needs a lot else, but I went and I did black and added more to it last time. So feel free to leave it as it is. Maybe put a little bit of definition in his nose, which I did with the, can't remember what colours I used now. I must have used some peat because it's more of a brown nose. Let's have a go. See, I didn't put any detail really in the nose. Just kind of let it all bleed out. You can see it's a nose. You can see the shape of the nose because the muzzle makes it. Don't think you need a lot else. Put this colour back round. On the sections that you don't want lots of colour, literally just do a couple of blobs and you can drag it out and it's going to be a lot lighter than the rest. Let's get a bit of orangey pink going on in there. See, because I'm stuck in my realism thing, I will probably go back into that nose and make it a bit more defined. So I'm going to go back into these nostrils and make them more black so they pop. How dry are we up here? Fairly dry. So I'm going to go in with the black. I'm not layering loads of colours today, literally just using, what have we done? 4 colours. You don't need a lot of this black at all because you've already got your darkest sections in. This is just to help increase that contrast. I'm going to drag it out, kind of turns a bit purpley grey, into the mid-tones. Doesn't have to be perfect because it's messy watercolour. Just picking out the very darkest sections on the cow, which will give him his head shape. Fan on my computer is working overtime, if you can hear that. It's like going, it sounds like my computer's about to take off the ground. So this cow looks completely different to the first one I did. I think I was slightly more loose with the first one. This one I've gone in with a bit more definition. You can hear music in the background. I don't know if that's coming through on the computer. I think it's our local woodwind band in the village hall next to our house. See if you can hear some random music going on. That will be what it is. As you can see, as I'm going along, I'm trying to let each section dry before I go back in with another colour. These pens tend to pull the water up. So if you're drawing on a wet section, it's going to be pulled into the pen and the pen's not going to release any ink. So try to let them dry before going on to the next bit. So up here, going with the purple because we haven't actually got much definition up here. This is where his little rosette is. where the hair starts from the top of the head. He's looking like a ninja cow at the moment. It looks like he's got a little mask over his eyes. So this is where my realism, I need to stop thing comes in, because I'm sat here trying to get a couple of those little hair strokes going on, make it look like they've got hair. That's where I need to stop. So to make some nice splodginess, I'm going to add even more water than I usually would and drag this colour out, which looks great when it's on the edges. You could use a straw to push it out. I don't know if I've got a straw down there. I usually have a random straw hanging around. Apparently not. Children must have pinched it. If you blow through a straw, totally the wrong brush. If you blow through a straw, you can pull this water or push it out into splats and splodges. I'm going to take some of this colour here to pop into his white section. Don't need much colour. So don't be afraid to leave the paper white. I've gone a bit too dark in here. If you look at my other one, I've left all this section white or very, very light, and all down here, loads and loads of white patches that I haven't filled with colour. Whereas I'm going in a bit too deep with this one. I would have preferred to have left some of the colour lighter or not showing. So it's the shadow under his mouth. Pull it down a little bit. And these bits are the darkest sections. You can see what a lovely effect it has, even though it's just two colours, just black and Prussian blue, and it's kind of moulded and blended into what looks like a lot of different colours used. I'm going to go back in and put a tiny bit of definition under his eyes. So I've gone kind of wet on wet there. If you keep doing that with these pens, they do tend to not release the ink. Tiny bit's fine. Let's make these eyes a little darker. Right, nose. So to give him a little bit more shape, honestly can't remember how I did this, but we'll give it a go. Just shading in where the darker sections would be to give that nose a little bit of shape. This needs to come down further. next door's dogs again. They drive me absolutely insane. There are new people that have moved in next door. And my God, their dogs bark incessantly. And my dog doesn't bark. My dog is literally an angel. She can be left all day while I'm at work. And she doesn't bark. And it winds her up so much. So, for the nose, I do believe I went in with, if I can figure out where I put it, with a tiny bit of an Illustrator marker. Now, these are not water soluble. I think I went for the brown grey. Must have been brown grey 6. So these are the Illustrator markers. They're not water soluble. They're an alcohol marker, again from Spectrum Noir. This one is the brown grey 6. So you can see that. These again have the bullet nib, not quite as fine as the aquas, and they also have a brush tip. And these are great for going in when it's dry, not when it's wet because the ink won't work, and just putting a tiny bit of detail, because I can't let the realism go, obviously. And they will not move if you whack a wash over them with water. They will stay as they are. So I'm just going to put a tiny little bit. Oh, dogs. I knew I should have shut the window. So if you go over them with the water, it doesn't move. So just a tiny bit of definition. Oh, my dog's now coming over to say, there are dogs barking, save me. I know. Let's just put a tiny bit darker in here. I'm also going to add this Marigold to just give it a bit of extra oomph. So I might put a little bit up here, very tiny. And just gives it a little bit of an extra dimension, so it's not just purple and black. Kind of links it into the nose, so the nose doesn't just sit there looking like it's completely out of place. And let's put some down here. The aqua pens do tend to reactivate, not as much as if they're wet, but if you do go over them with the water, they will slightly reactivate again. So now he's in place, he's kind of looking a bit dull and non-splotchy for watercolours. So I am going to go in with the colour again, just a little bit, and drag it out. So it's splotchy, splotchy. Bit on the ears. Somebody asked me in the Spectrum Noir Connoisseurs group, I think it is, on Facebook, how I did the water splotches on this one. So these sections, draw on it, all around here, they asked if I drew them in or whether I could actually do that with the pens. I did it with the pens. I will show you in just a second. So he's a bit looser. to do the water splotches, I put water on my brush, go into the colour and drag it off. Now this is going to take the colour out of the tip of your pen, so you may need to then re-colour on a scrap piece of paper to get that ink flowing again, because this is taking it all out of the nib, so you need the ink to come back down. But the more water you put on your brush, the bigger your splotches are going to be. So you can see how the ink is being taken out of the nib of that pen. It's not as dark as it was, it's starting to kind of go white. So splotch, hit. More water you use, the bigger the splotches. So we've done purple. If I get a scrap piece of paper, Specsavers, you'll do. You can see it's going to need, you need to bring that ink back down into the pen to get it working again. Let's go for some black. Again, I'm just going to do exactly the same. Nice wet brush, take off that ink and use the pen as a tool to hit. I see people flicking and toothbrushes, and so easy to just use this pen as a rest to whack your paint over. Let's go for a bit of orange too. Love this technique. I love creating splotches. Love getting the straws out, blowing them around. It's all good fun. So that is almost there. But because I'm a realism artist and I can't help it, I'm just going to put a few little details. Again, I'm going to use the Illustrator because it's not going to move. It's not going to run out if I put any water over it. Just some tiny hair strokes. Somebody stop me because I'm going to overwork it. And watercolours don't need hair strokes. Totally going to overwork it. I need to stop. I want this bit a tiny bit darker. Oop, wrong side. As you can see, I've already taken out the ink from that pen, so it's not as dark. It's not flowing as well, but it will do, it will come back. Just remember to keep your darkest sections dark, because that is going to give you the shape of the cow. This is all wet, so the ink's not going down as well. Right, stop faffing. Must stop faffing. Really stop. Right, stop. And he's done-ish. Let's go back out. Zoom out. There we go. So, no two pictures are ever the same. Kind of prefer that one because I left him a lot looser. I've gone in far too much with this one. But it looks like a different cow. We need more splotches up the top. Oh my gosh, stop faffing. Totally should be stopping with the faffing, but... I think I may need to get another one out, because when you don't feel like you've finished, and you obviously have finished, should not be faffing anymore. Get something else to draw. Put that creativity into something else. Stop with the faffing on here. So, he is pretty much done, and all we used was Prussian blue, black, Peat, and Marigold in the Spectrum Noir Aqua Markers, and one Illustrator pen. Now this can be created with any colour blends, you could do red and blue, you could do orange and yellow. Oh, I want to do an orange and yellow cow. Yes, okay, I'm going to have to carry on creating now once I've turned this off. So that's it, really. I will be putting up some reviews and kind of unboxing, although I've already unboxed them all, on the sets of pens that I've got from Spectrum Noir. I am one of their design team members, so a lot of my stuff will be done with the Spectrum Noir products, because that's what I do now, as well as my realism stuff. I'm going to be uploading more tutorials. They will get better, and I will stop waffling quite as much, hopefully. Click on the subscribe button if you'd like to see anything else that I happen to do tutorial wise and stuff, and I will see you all in the next one. Thank you all for watching. Bye.